like I didn't really give a fuck if. Obviously, I wanted people to listen, but to me, it was more just doing it for myself and like what I was saying.
No, well, I mean, dude, that's the best way to start.
Yeah, being able to just like get people that I know well and have people in that I'm able to talk with and talk about shit that like you're not able to talk about stuff on
like with your normal people. No, I understand that.
Yeah, 100%. Like in passing or something like that. Like even you, because I know you through snowboarding. Like there's certain shit like we'd probably never be able to talk about and like hash certain things out on the trails or on the ski lift.
Yeah.
Like and then this gives me the opportunity to sit down and like face to face.
Yeah. Well, we were talking pretty deep like the last day of the mountain when you came over and we were talking about a bunch of stuff. Yeah.
I know. Well, that was part of so that was actually like there's not just one thing that got me into it, but like there's specific moments or people that I go to that I'm like, yeah, that was definitely a reason I got into it, and that was one of those times because I remember talking to you about it and I was like, talking to you not about the podcast, but we were talking about just like a bunch of different stuff, and I was like, this is what I want. Like, I want to talk to interesting, intellectual people who have shit to say, but like, sit down and be able to not, just like be able to talk about it face to face and not like be weirded out. Like long form conversations.
Yeah.
I like it. So, all right, we're in it, brother. Not for TV. I think we're at number 7 here. I guess we'll just dive right in. The first thing I wanted to ask. Where did Rodeo Steve come from? I've heard rumors, but I want to hear it from the man himself.
So, yeah, I mean, it's back in the day. It was probably about like 14, 15. Somebody was talking, like, they were calling me backflip kid or something, and I was like, well, I don't do backflips, I do rodeos. And then Matt Hummel might have been part of it. I'm not even sure. But somebody just introduced me this Rodeo Steve, and it just stuck. I can't even remember exactly who it was, but somebody, and then it just stuck like that. I mean, it was within like a week, everybody knew me as Rodeo Steve.
I've heard you got hurt multiple times doing it.
Oh, tons of times. Well, never, a lot of stupid stuff. Most of the falls are stupid. My big one was, and that's when it kind of took off. That's where a lot of people, I was one of the early on, like one of the first few to ever throw a double at Blue. And, but yeah, one of my doubles, like later down the road after I got really good at them, I just kind of under-rotated and ended up rupturing my spleen, and I actually coded in the hospital and died. Fully heart stopped, everything. And then, yeah, I mean, it was a humbling experience for sure. Just came up short, about like 20 feet up in the air, down to the chest on ice. I mean,
holy fuck.
Yeah, I knew something was wrong, but I got some people to help me up. I snowboarded down the mountain, and things were out of place. And, I mean, in the ambulance, I was already going into shock, and my eyes were rolling in the back of my head, all that good stuff.
Really?
Yeah. I did stabilize, and then they put saline in me in the hospital, and that's when the vitals went right out the window. They rushed me into emergency surgery.
Holy fuck.
Yeah.
How much of that do you remember yourself?
Most of it. I mean, I didn't knock myself out or nothing. I remember pretty much all of it. And
holy shit.
Yeah.
How long, like, were you, like, when you say you were considered, like, dead then, or what, you didn't have any vitals, what?
Well, that I don't really know. I had a bunch of people, I mean, all these different doctors. They're, just typical movie scene. They're pushing you through the hallway. Everyone's running around, freaking out. They're all introducing me. I'm this specialist. You're in the best hands. And my way to handle this sort of stuff is, I just kind of make a joke out of it. And what I said, I was like, listen, I really appreciate it, but I'm not going to remember any of your names. And I didn't actually realize how serious it was. I mean, it was kind of like I said, it's a very humbling experience as it's comforting. I mean, the feeling of dying, and you'd be surprised on how much you'd welcome it. It's kind of, it's hard to explain, but it's you have those sad thoughts. You didn't say you goodbye to anybody, and but at the same time, it's your body like is programmed to comfortably like transition you into that. I mean, it's hard to explain, but everything they say where it goes white, you kind of your eyes are closing, but everything goes white. I didn't meet my maker or anything like that,
but you knew it was like when it was happening. You knew
at that point, yeah, something just changed. I mean, and like I said, it was comforting. It was a very comforting feeling, and I actually am not afraid of death because of that feeling.
Holy fuck, yeah. That's crazy. I never knew that about you. And it's funny you say that because I was listening to a podcast about some guy that had a heart attack, and he said like the same thing.
Yeah.
He said it was just like I don't know the first thing about it, but from what he said, it was exactly what you said. It
Yeah.
was kind of just like your body almost like naturally tells like something just naturally kicks in where it's
Yeah.
like, dude, like it's gonna
It
happen.
releases all these chemicals, to kind of make it the least, to make it more bearable, I guess. But like I said, it was comforting. Like it was like I don't know, I don't really know how to explain it. And then, a day and a half later, I woke up with a tube in my throat. I mean, it was kind of crazy.
Holy fuck! Did it?
Yeah.
How long did they say you were like gone for then?
That I don't actually know. I never got that. I got all the details from my mom, so this is kind of what I go off of. And she had said like, right away they took me away. The vitals were fine, and then next thing you know, like 7 or 8 doctors came out to talk to them, and they said there's a priest standing nearby, but your son is in the best hands. We had to rush him into emergency surgery, and they said I don't have all the details, but
Oh my gosh!
yeah,
And what? How old were you? Like how long ago?
21. So
So how
that
many
was
years ago?
almost 7 years ago.
Holy fuck!
So I have no spleen now, but it's really not that serious of an injury. The problem that I have was, well, I mean, mine was pretty bad. It was I had a grade 5 laceration on your spleen, which is the worst it could be. It's basically like somebody took it out, ripped it apart, and stomped on it a bunch of times. But then I had a grade 2 on my liver, which wasn't as serious. That kind of just healed up on its own. Um, but like I said, it's not that serious. It's just one of those. It's an emergency. Like you got to get to the hospital, and I kind of took my time trying to I didn't know how bad it was. I just knew something was out of place. I thought maybe I popped a lung. Like it wasn't painful, but something was definitely just not right. And then the way I knew it started to get serious was, and this I guess is from an internal bleeding thing. It actually started to feel like my left arm was broken. Started in my shoulder and traveling, and they said that's just from the internal bleeding. It'll do that. It'll affect that sort of the body. And I was like, oh, I think I broke my shoulder, and like it just kept getting worse and worse. So
Oh my gosh! That's fucking crazy. I never knew that. And you're still going hard to this day.
yeah, I broke my jaw. I've been wired shut before. Those were supposed to stay on for 6 weeks. I cut those off in 2, and then I went to Park City, Utah. just wore a mouth guard the whole time.
How they wire your jaw shut?
Yeah, I had 2 separations underneath a bone impacted wisdom tooth and then a stress fracture. So they had my whole jaw. That was probably the biggest jump Blue Mountain ever built. But it started getting slow. The sun came out, and it was at the bottom of falls, not the top of falls. It was a big air comp. I was throwing cork 7s over it. They were coming around. I was pretty pumped. And then finally, that was just practice. So we go into the comp, and I'm coming down, and I already know it's slow. And I was like, screw it. There's a big crowd. The jump's huge, and I throw it, and I just cased it, and knee went right into my jaw. I felt like somebody hit me in the head with a shovel, and I went to bite, and just none of my teeth lined up. I was like, oh, no, I'm just spitting blood out like crazy. And then, yeah, like I said, I ended up getting wired shut. I had to blend all my food and drink it. And
Could you just like not talk then, or how?
this is how I would talk. I had to just constantly have my teeth like this.
Holy fuck, dude.
So, and then a week later, with my jaw still wired shut, I actually competed in the rail jam at Blue Mountain.
Fucking wild. Rails of late, like the past year or so, those have been just sketching me out a little more. I think you were there the one day I fucking like tacoed myself in the weirdest way.
Yeah.
And just something since then, I don't know. It's just that like hard fucking metal under me. Something about it. I'm like, I'd rather just get some air and see what the fuck happens.
Yeah, I'm partial to both. It's weird. I'd much rather go, send it off a jump, but yeah, I don't know. Red rails have been growing on me over the past few years.
It's weird. It's like a weird dynamic. Sometimes it like fluctuates too. Sometimes I'm like into the jumps and I want to be hitting that. Sometimes I just want to be cruising. Other times I want to be hitting rails. But that's fucking crazy. I never knew that. And you're still going hard. Yeah. Holy fuck. That's hard fucking core. I could only imagine what your dad had to say about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. My mom's the emotional one. I mean, I put my parents through a lot over the years. I've almost been dead a few times. But
I feel like that makes a lot of sense, though, because I met both of them, and met both of them. Met your dad. Met your dad 2 years ago at that, at the end of the year at Blue, and then I think I might have met your mom too both years, but it kind of makes sense though, because you guys, it seems like you do have like a really good bond, and that makes sense, like something to be through so much together, like to have that. Just what I picked up from seeing you guys together for that short amount of time makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely closer with my mom than I am my dad. I mean, I don't know. I guess everybody's got a weird relationship with their dad in a sense, but uh, no, yeah. I mean, I grew up with my parents. They had me really young. My mom was only 15, my dad was 17, and they're still together. So I kind of got to grow up with them. I've had a lot more freedom than a lot of people did growing up, and yeah, no, I got great parents for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they're both very intelligent people too. Very like grounded, and um, they know what the hell's going on. They're not just like up in the clouds somewhere, like some parents can fucking be. Another thing I thought of that we were talking about made me bring it up that I wanted to go over again because I've thought about since is I don't know if you remember the day at the end of the year we were talking about phones and Apple and that whole spiel, and I would love to hear that again because I like remember some of it, but to me that was I don't know. You just changed my mind about Apple and about almost just tech in general and
I mean, well, I vaguely remember
so
the
yeah,
conversation.
so we were talking about I don't know how it came up, but we were talking about we were going over phones and I think Paul was talking with Paul and I was talking about how like Apple I thought they were just super fucky for slowing down like when a phone gets older for what I perceive to be like slowing down software or slowing down the battery to like what I saw is pushing you to get a new phone.
Yeah, no. So they actually do that to not push you to get a new phone. I mean, that was the whole thing, which a lot of people don't understand that. And like a lawsuit about it. Is they're slowing people's phones down, but it's because of the lithium-ion batteries. And this is any phone that you get, you're gonna have this exact same problem. Within 2 years, the lithium-ion batteries go bad. They can only handle so many charges. So when that happens, your phone begins to act really weird when your processor is running at its max speed. You know what I mean? So they dull it down a little bit so it can handle it. And you'll notice, I mean, before they did that, people would complain their phones would be at 30% and it would just shut off, and it would all these problems would happen. So that was Apple's fix, and it was so you didn't want to get a new phone. It was actually to help you, and people didn't take it that way. As oh you're throttling this and everybody gets worked up about it. But yeah, that wasn't the case. It was them making your phone still usable.
So do they like when they do it? They slow down the phone itself, then like the process. Like I don't know the fucking first thing about phones or technology.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah, no, it's not so much like data or anything. It's just the power of your phone. I mean, you'll notice certain things will load a little slower, stuff like that. I mean, it's just your processing power of the phone.
now, like was talking, I've got a new battery recently. Then, so like, will that like when I go to get the new battery, they said the old battery was working at like 75% capacity or something. So when I get that new one, and it should be theoretically 100, like would that? Are you saying that the phone would still be slow just for the battery, or now that the battery's at 100, it'll kick
Now
back
that
up?
I don't have an exact answer to. Now I would think if you had it replaced through Apple, that they would unthrottle it in a sense. I mean, like I fix phones on the side. That's what I do. It's kind of like my side gig. I have friends and family is mostly what I do. I actually do a lot of phones a month, but I don't charge anybody. Friends and family, you just pay the parts. I fix them. But then the way I make money off them is I buy them broken, or my friends and family give me their old ones because they're not going to do anything with them, and I replace the parts and sell them and profit. That's where I make my money off that. Yeah, yeah, I've been doing that for a while. It's a nice little side income. Um, but yeah, like I said, if I was to do it, I don't have the ability to unthrottle it.
So it's almost like you're putting a governor on it just because like the
To
battery is
Yeah, the
able to keep
battery
up.
is the problem. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. How
Yeah, the rest of the phone will work great. I just like I said, I do that a lot with just replace the battery, and I mean the phone it's like brand new.
But yeah, because we were like you were saying too, and which like I agree with Apple. Like I personally have no problems on like a subjective level from my experiences. Like I've never fucking had any problems with the phones. I think they're a great product.
Yeah, that's you got both sides. You get the Androids and the Android fanboys. You get the Apple fanboys and everybody. Oh, your product's terrible. Your product's terrible. Like you don't get to become a $1 trillion company with a terrible product. Like, it just doesn't happen. And that's yeah. Some people like to think they're overpriced, and the one thing that I always kind of said with Apple is you're really not paying for you're paying for the product, but you're paying for the experience. I mean, any other phone, your Samsung goes bad, like you got to go through your carrier, you got to send it in 2 weeks later, maybe they'll give you a loaner, you get your one back. Like you go to Apple, you walk in, if they're limited warranty, like anything's wrong, you walk in 10 minutes later, you walk out with a new phone. And I mean, it's no questions asked. I mean, they're great. I mean, they've become a little bit harder because some people do abuse that, but for the most part, I mean, they're great. I mean, the whole thing. I mean, especially their continuity is what they call it. Especially when you get into like the iPads and the laptops and stuff, like the MacBooks. So like I'll be on my Safari on my phone. I set my phone next to my computer. On my computer, asked me if I want to continue doing what I was doing on my phone. Like I mean, the ecosystem is crazy.
Is that something you set up yourself, or is that like something they have in place now?
It is a setting, yeah. It's in place now. I mean, you may have to go in and kind of screw around with it. Usually, when you're setting it up, it'll ask you if you want to do continuity and stuff. That's all tied to your Apple ID, but it's really cool how it all works.
Interesting. And then now that we're talking about it, another thing we brought up that I was like another catalyst just to get the podcast going, like a really deep topic, was talking about privacy and user privacy, and I don't even know what you would call it, just like how you said, like, I mean, now Apple does it explicitly, but when you're on your phone, for the first time in your life, you're searching for something like, I don't know, like podcast mics and then I go on my computer 10 minutes later, and I never searched in my life on my computer, and it's up there. And that, like, to a lot of people, and for me, it was like a concerning thing, because you see it, and you just jump to like invasion of privacy. Like, whoa, someone's watching what I'm doing. Like, someone has an idea what's going on. But
that's not really, yeah, that's not a.
But yeah, so the way you put it was like made me look at it in a whole different light.
Yeah, Apple does not access your data. I mean, your data is all localized. I mean, that's really what it is. I mean, unless somebody physically has your device, they are not taking any of your data. I mean, you can. They give you all of those settings in the phone. I mean, you got private browsing on your Safari. I mean, if there's anything being put out there, it's because of you, the user, doesn't quite understand what you're doing. But they give you the option to hide all of that. And I mean, that's a lot of people I know with the thumbprint and the government and stuff like that. But Apple really does fight for your privacy rights. And out of all of the devices, you're going to get your best privacy in that sense. I mean, just when you start getting into the droids and stuff, I mean, they're flagship phones. The operating systems are definitely more kind of designed around the phone, but it's still a very fragmented OS, which means there's thousands of devices running the same OS. Where when you get into Apple products, the software is specifically designed around the hardware of the phone, and you only have a new 1 or 2 phones every year, so you get a lot more security. I mean, there's a lot more leaks. I mean, everything is a lot more just tight knitted. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So yeah, and another thing that like you kind of made me look at differently was the like essentially like what does it matter? It's for you anyway. The user. Yeah. Like to be able to go on my phone and look at mics and then switch over to my computer, while it may initially seem like, whoa, no individual FBI agent or whatever the fuck it is watching what I'm doing. Yeah. But there's still something that's telling, transferring that information. And like the way you put it was kind of like, well, like, what does it matter? It's for your benefit. Yeah. And like, I think that kind of made me realize, just like when you think about it, it's like, well, yeah, it is. Like, unless you're doing something bad that you don't want people to see, there's no reason that you shouldn't embrace that.
Yeah, well, your average. I mean, the people that are always so worried about that stuff, like, even if my stuff was being accessed, which, don't get me wrong, you start getting into, this is America, your freedom and your privacy. Like, I understand all that, but I mean, I personally, like, you could go through any of my stuff. Like, I got nothing to hide. Like, and if I did have something to hide, I mean, that's it's a double-edged sword. But usually, I don't know. It's designed for your benefit, and it's localized. Like, it's your computer, and it's a learning algorithm that are talking to each other between your phone and your computer. It's not going anywhere. So unless somebody is specifically targeting you, trying to get into your system to find your information, and like I said, and that's going to be, unless you have enemies that are really that high up in that are crazy hackers and stuff, like, it's really not a concern.
Yeah, I guess what it is just people's perception more than anything.
Oh,
From
for
what you're
sure.
saying, then,
Yeah.
because I mean, like there's no reason if you think about things logically that you should fear your information being out there. Like if unless probably the people that have shit to hide probably care the least, and it seems like just like naysayer fucking Twitter blogger, YouTuber, anyone that can comment is the one that is pissed off about it. But it's like when you look at it logically, it's like if you have nothing to hide, there's no reason you shouldn't want to give that information away, even if it is being accessed.
Yeah. Well, it's. I mean, that's just something. That's all new. I mean, it's only you're talking only in the last 20 years that we're not even that we're getting into this sort of stuff. I mean, it's only going to get worse. I mean, it's a digital era. Anything you do, say, whatever, I mean, it's going to be out there. Like that's just the way we live now. And I mean, we'll work out the kinks along the way, but it is what it is.
What's your outlook? I guess just like I ask people this a lot in terms of technology, like just past, present, and future, like the whole spiel. What's your outlook on it? Where do you see it from where it's come, and where do you see it where it's going?
I mean, I don't even think we scratched the surface yet. I mean, that's like I said, but just think about in the scope of things, like how much time has passed. I mean, people seem to think 50, 100 years is a lot, 2 generations. I mean, it's nothing. I mean,
When you think of how old the fucking Earth is and how long humans been around, it's just nothing.
and I'm very optimistic though in the sense that like right now is truly the. I mean, it's there's no better time to be alive. I mean, there really isn't. I mean, you have everything right at your fingertips. You can do what you want. I mean, it's only gonna get better, but like it really is the time of opportunity. I mean, you can go online. I mean, you could literally make money doing anything. I mean, you just got to have the drive. I mean, that's really all it is.
Yeah, it really is, and I think part of the reason people think it's such a shitty time is because you can get into feedback loops with things easily. Like if you're
Oh,
look
there you go. You're right back at perspective,
if
man. Perspective is everything.
yeah, if you're looking at shitty things, and if you're looking at the same shit news, CNN killings and deaths every day, the world seems no doubt like a fucking horrible place. But when you look at the bigger picture and just numbers and homelessness
Yeah,
and
actual statistics of it, and I mean that's no, I get that. I mean with Facebook, all your news is right in your face all the time. I mean you're just seeing it all the time, and nothing's really changed. It's always been happening. You just weren't hearing about the shooting in Alabama that nobody cared about. Like, I mean it's instantly just the way viral media works. I mean it's just crazy.
yeah, I was saying to a buddy yesterday actually, if you think about it from us, this generation, our parents' generation, just from what I've personally and probably most of people around our age have seen on the internet is more than our parents have ever witnessed in their lives. Because I've seen people falling off dirt bikes thousands and thousands and thousands of times, and even if you were someone growing up without technology who rode dirt bikes, you wouldn't see that, and then just extrapolate that to whatever you want.
Yeah, desensitivity, I think is what you're getting at. I
Yeah,
mean, that's this generation for sure.
and just the amount of information that you can take in. You can just in an hour of sitting on your phone, you can watch hundreds of videos,
Oh yeah,
and it
you could see anything. I mean, you can literally go online right now and just watch a killing. I mean, you could watch anything. I mean, literally anything you think of, you type it in. I guarantee you, there's a video. Yeah. And it's right at your fingertips, and yeah, no, it's definitely crazy.
I've talked about that on here before. Just you can see whatever the fuck you want. And whether you're willing to see the good, see the bad, and what you're willing to see and keep feeding yourself back with is up to you, and what you're willing to go look for. And if you want to bring out the positive in all of it, you do that. And you're more than able to, but I think a lot of times people get caught in just finding the negatives and looking at the negatives, and that's when you get oh, the world's such a bad fucking place, this, that, and the third, and it's only getting better.
Yeah, no, I mean it definitely is. I mean you're gonna have bad people. I don't think that's ever something that we're ever gonna fix. Um, but I mean we could work towards solutions that maybe lower statistics in areas and stuff. But you're always gonna have these problems. There's nothing you could do. I mean you just gotta you take it as what it is, and I mean life's not fair, and you move on, and all we can do is our best.
Yeah. What what's your outlook? Just because, like how you said, I like how you said you were talking about people were looking at 20, 50 years, like it's a long time. In reality, it's nothing. Because I try to look at things the same way too. Like zoom out that scope and look at the bigger picture as much as possible. Like just talking down the line as much as you can see, and in terms of like the human race and Earth itself, do you hold like an optimistic viewpoint in terms of like energy and resources, because obviously those are only finite on the rock, and like all these other things, because like a lot of people hold different views in terms of we're just gonna fucking uh, consume, and burn it all out, and by that time we're gonna fizzle out too? Or do you hold the belief that like we're smart, we've gotten this far, we're gonna improvise, adapt, overcome, and figure out the next step?
Um, yeah, I mean, there's hope and optimism. There's obviously some realism in there too. I mean, I don't have like a full perspective. I mean, I can't tell you like I feel strongly which way or I mean, I do think the most change you'll ever find, I mean, as far as the human condition goes, the change that you find is usually upon the point of breaking. That's when people are willing to change, which is kind of tough. I mean, I mean, consciousness has slowly been kind of growing. I feel like, everyone's, woke AF and stuff, but no, I definitely think people are looking for deeper meanings in life, and some people may even kind of, if you want to get political about it, kind of tie that towards like the leftist agenda, which I don't know. I don't really see that. Um, but no, I think slowly but surely, like consciousness is expanding and opening, and we're starting to get there. I mean, we're talking about things. Nobody's really doing though, um, and I mean, who knows? I mean, that's the big thing is taking those words and making action about it.
Yeah.
Doing something about it. And I don't know. I'd like to think that one day we'll get there.
Yeah, I think I tend to take. I guess lately though it's been how I'm feeling during the day, but I tend to take like the optimistic perspective, because like you said, I when you just look at things, humans tend to change when they get to, like you said, like
That
when they're
breaking
when they're
point,
put
yeah.
under
When
extreme.
you don't have a choice, yeah. That's when you're gonna.
Yeah, and I think right now, like where we're at with,
Everybody's comfortable. It's not a fight for survival
but
anymore.
things are starting to heat up. You know what I mean? Like when you look at just humanity and the earth itself, things are starting to go in the trend where we may not be under that complete load of stress looking for answers like right now, but the super intelligent, super mindful people are saying, well, look at the way the trend's going, and the trend's 99.9% going to continue, so like let's start talking about these things now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's gonna be a problem eventually. I mean, the mindset has been over the years is I'm gonna be dead before it's a problem. So who cares? Who cares? Everybody loves their kids, but nobody actually cares that they're giving their kids all these issues.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I said, it's the human condition. I mean, obviously, as much as people want to say they don't, some people truly don't. But like most people, put themselves first. I mean, and that's it is what it is. I mean, it's a shitty saying, but
I think there's times that that's appropriate and times when like it's not. I believe that, because like there's times when like you need to do what's best for yourself, and you need to be like you invested in yourself. You may be in a time of stress yourself, or just a time when you're looking towards the future for the like yourself. But I think where like there's a line that needs to be distinct, like there's a distinguished line where it go like you can be concerned about yourself so much, but all of a sudden you have however many $200 million in the bank, like a couple million ago might have been time to start thinking about what you can do for other people, or what you can do for your family, or what you can do for future generations to come. And not even with money either, just kind of a lot of.
no, no, I get the
But
concept for sure.
I think that was one thing I heard on really recently was a discussion on like the meaning of life, and it was good because like if you don't subscribe to the theory of a god, if uh and that's your route you choose, then it's very easy to succumb to the idea of like there's no meaning to the whole thing.
Now, do you find that how do you feel if there was no meaning to the whole thing?
So
What's your meaning of life?
if that's the idea I would succumb to, which I'm not saying I do, I'm not saying I don't. I just, exercise any concept. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So when I think of it that way, my best thing is to that's when I will go as like selfish as possible, like we were saying. Okay, so and what I mean by that is like if someone were to come in here and like sit down and just like somehow relayed to me that what they were saying was right and said what you just said, there's no meaning to it, I would go. I would look in myself deep and I would go, how can I myself make meaning? Because if there is no meaning, there's no reason.
Well, that is to me. Oh, I'm gonna kind of this is my own introspection, and I do a lot of thought in this general area. Um, and you were basically right there about to say it is that I mean the meaning of life is to find your own meaning. There is no answer.
As cheesy as it sounds.
There is no answer.
Yeah.
And I mean, I struggled with that for years. I had a very nihilistic approach towards these sort of thoughts. Nothing. At the same time though, I found it almost liberating. I mean, I'm on my timeline. Nobody else. I'm not worried about anybody else. It's maybe a little bit of little selfish, but like you're worried about everybody's perspective about you, and this person said that, and no, I'm here for me. I'm not here for them.
Exactly. And that's where I was saying like the selfishness, that's when it's appropriate. Because if someone came to you and said there's no meaning to it all, here you go do what you do. If all of a sudden you start looking to the outside, like, all right, well, if there's no meaning, how, what can I do for this person, or like while I'm here, serve this person, this person, this person, or do this, that, and the third. I feel like that's just gonna cause havoc like internally for you. So like if someone were to say that to me and there's no meaning to it all, like to stop me from just blasting myself is on like as ridiculous as it sounds, like you need to give yourself meaning. And I think I think people in our generation, in this time, I think that like it's a huge important question to ask yourself, because even if you believe there's meaning otherwise, let's say you do subscribe to the idea of a God, like that only still gets you so far. You know what I mean? Like that only still gives you so many morals, beliefs, ethics, and codes to subscribe by, and you need to still make yourself something as opposed to just saying, "All right, fuck it, I'm like just gonna fuck everything off and just praise the Most High." You know what I mean? Like I think there's immense importance to finding meaning in something, pushing yourself, driving yourself. Like you said, put yourself in situations where you're under stress, and that's how you grow. Like you can extrapolate that to the big
Oh
scale.
yeah, well you get stuck in that comfort zone. I mean, you can get trapped there, and I mean you could go through life and just be generally content, or I mean anything great in life comes with risk. I mean you got to push. I mean yeah, you got to continue to grow, and that's something I've been kind of working towards. I'm kind of in a limbo stage of my life right now. I mean I hit that kind of comfort zone, and I'm trying to figure out where my next breakthrough is to where I can grow more.
Yeah, I've going off to school and living on my own for the first time is really what just was the snowball effect for all this, because it was kind of like I was put into a vacuum with no parents, no one to be watching over me, just myself to answer to. And that's when I did what I was saying. I looked in and I said, okay, well, like if there's like this is life, you know what I mean? That to like I never went. I'm living in this beautiful house back in the woods. My parents have taken care of just about anything I want. They would do anything for me. But I was put into a situation where I realized, I went, oh shit, like I'm in school right now, and the only thing, like, the outcome is dependent on one thing, and that's myself. So I can either fucking push myself, put the nose to the grindstone, and make the best version of myself I can, and that's like obviously the optimal end of the spectrum, and from there you can just go down and play out the scenarios. But I think part of life inherently that a lot of people are missing today are a struggle in something, anything, like a hobby, a sport, or anything. And like one of the things I took up, well, not took up, but in a month I'm running a marathon. And for me, over the summer, like being off of school, I knew I was going to be working, but I said, I was like, I need something to keep me on track and to keep my mind, like, it's not an exercise for my body, because I knew my body's capable of doing it. It was an exercise for my mind of staying disciplined and pushing myself through the tough moments of training. And like, I think that's life right there. Is fine. And then like when I'm done with that, I'll be like you said, I might be in a limbo state, but I'm gonna be fucking looking for the next thing to keep climbing that hill.
Well, that's kind of, I mean, going back into the meaning of life and stuff. I mean, I kind of derived my own meaning in the sense of I'm experience. Like that's what I'm here for. I don't throw out the idea of a higher being. Actually, I love the idea. I mean, just looking at life. I mean, I find the beauty of it and the mathematical perfection. And I do I like the idea. I'm not reading Bibles or I'm not going to church, but I don't I have this weird like abstract thought that if like a God does exist, I feel like every religion has a piece of that same thing. They all literally pray to the exact same thing. They just gave it a different name and a backstory. It's a higher being, and I mean it's great for morals and stuff, but you can be a good person without that in your life. But like I said, I love the idea. I'm a little spiritual. I've had my share of experiences in the psychedelic realm. That kind of gave me some breakthroughs here and there and stuff. I but yeah, going to the meaning. I mean, if something was to create this, and I mean, or if I'm here for a purpose, I just feel like my purpose would be to experience as much as possible, to learn as much as possible. I mean, whether that's doesn't have to be book smart. It could just be social interactions. Interacting with other people. Just throughout my life, all I want to do is I just want to do something new all the time and learn as much as I can. I just want to. I don't even know if it's gonna come with me, but like that's my purpose.
Yeah. No, I think I mean I look at things generally the same way with the little tweaks, but for the most part the same. And I think almost no matter who like you could have a friend that thinks like and people let me rewind and regain my thought. So people that think about this, whether you know them personally or whether they're like a famous intellectual, people that are wrestling with the idea of like life and meaning, in my opinion, this is completely subjective. The ones that think about it the right way, they almost all kind of follow that archetype that you just said. Like let me make meaning in myself, like let me empower myself. Personally, there I think there's for me at least there's a big factor of also helping others, because it goes back to the selfishness thing. Like I can only do so much for myself before like it would turn into a vicious cycle of like more money, more cars, more like and but like to me the one of the good meanings of life is realizing when you hit the point when you like, all right, now that I've done the best for myself,
You can give back.
how do I go back and give it to people who can't do it? Because as I've grown up, I've like something inside of me has just really started sympathizing with people that can't help their situations. Like whether it's people that grow up in cities and they grow up with no income, mom working two jobs or whatever it may be. Like I learned to sympathize with that because I realized I've had it so well off, and there's like a part of me that feels guilty about that.
Well, that's I can't remember who the quote was from, but it was the one time I heard it was there's no such thing as a self-made millionaire, and basically what that means is, I mean, no one in this life is successful without the help of others. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's people that have it harder than others, but somewhere along the line, somebody gave you an opportunity, a break, somebody taught you something. I mean, that's how we succeed in this life is to help each other.
Yeah.
It's a balance. Um, but I mean, yeah, that's exactly. I mean, that's somewhere along the line. I mean, that's we stop and just take the time, just when you have it, and when you can help somebody. I mean, that's the more and more that happens. Like I said, you just boost everybody up.
Yeah, you wouldn't be where you are today if it wasn't for someone um, relaying what they figured out to you. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
a
Like you
mentor in
said,
a sense. Yeah.
self-made. Like you wouldn't be, even if you're not a millionaire, you wouldn't know what you know today. Not even a mentor, just taking whatever I can
Oh,
from
just
every
little
single
bits and
person I
pieces.
interact
Yeah.
with.
Yep.
And like on my internship, I'm learning that now. Like my thirst for knowledge in any area of life has become crazy because like I've realized that when you're talking to someone who's 50 years old, they may be 50 years old and they may come off as an asshole, but there's something to learn from them.
Yeah.
There's something to
Oh,
gain. Like
there's something to learn from everybody. Somebody is every person you meet is better than you at something or knows something that you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of go through life looking like that, looking at it like that. I mean, you'll learn a lot. You really will.
Yeah, I also like the one that's everyone's going through, every person is going through a battle. And when you look at people that way, I personally am much more likely to sympathize with them and not jump to conclusions, not get pissed off over petty things, and work with that person.
And I actually take that a step further in my mind. I mean, obviously, I mean, it can get kind of depends on how deep you want to go and stuff. But even when you get into like, especially right now, I mean, political wise, I mean, police shootings are a big thing and stuff like that. Um, but like people do some dumb things. I mean, I mean, and right away, I mean, everybody jumps so quick to judge, like they've never made mistakes or, I mean, even just stupid things. Like just think about a time that maybe you were out drinking, you didn't agree with somebody, and you got a little angry, maybe even close to combative. I mean, people don't like everyone's perfect, and everybody else that screws up isn't. And it's I don't know. I kind of take that look. I mean, I don't think people are inherently bad. I want to know what caused them to do what they did. Like something, I mean, you don't know their childhood. You don't know what they went through. They had it so much harder than you. I mean, but right away, you just, oh, they're a terrible person. Like they deserve to die. Or, I mean, I don't like, I see that a lot. And it's one thing that does kind of eat at me. I mean, it's just kind of, but.
That eats at me a lot too. And like I think even if you're aware of it like you are, you still find yourself guilty of it on
So
like
yeah, oh
occasions.
no, 100%. Yeah, no, you'll be quick to judge somebody. I mean, that's just the way the brain works. I mean,
Yeah, like what's made me conceptualize it and intellectualize it a lot recently has been um, a couple police shootings. So one happened like right at Dorney Park here. I'm sure you heard of that.
yep, that's actually what I'm kind of referring to.
And another one just. I mean, there's so many police shootings, which is sad. But another one that happened, I think it was in Florida at a gas station. So and like you see the videos and you're just like you're the first thing people ask and like you think to even say is like did the officer have the right to shoot him, and immediately people will like decide that, and which I'm guilty of. But then like I sit there and I think, all right, first of all, I've never been in that situation. I'm not a police officer. I don't plan on being, but like you don't know what's going through his head when like someone's walking at, whether it's black, white, Asian, whatever race, green, yellow, purple, when someone like you don't know what that guy's been through, like you said, what his childhood, what he's programmed to think in his mind. So when some guy's walking at him and he's telling him to stop, put your hands over your head, get down, whatever it is, like, and he's not doing it, there's any which way you can go, and like people need to learn to sympathize with that, and like not immediately just go, oh, like he was right for shooting him or he was wrong. And I think one of them, like I was talking to my dad about the shootings because we watched it on the news, and it was like, it's like when you're asked if you were the judge in that situation, I was like, holy fuck. Like to think of deciding something
Having
like
that responsibility.
yeah, like and like I don't know what was going through this guy's head. He may have really felt his life was in danger. Like the other one I'm thinking, the guy got pushed over. I don't know if you saw it. They were out in front of a gas station, and there's a guy and a girl going at it, and the girl's boyfriend is inside. The boyfriend comes out, and when him and his girlfriend are going at it, doesn't even talk to the guy, pushes him over. Right, the guy pulls out a gun, and
Oh, I know exactly what you were talking about.
yeah.
Yep.
So when you see that, it's like there's so many things people from either side will start. Oh, the guy was backing up. He had no right to shoot him. Or, oh, he just pushed him immediately. Yeah, he should have shot him. And it's like, well, like, you weren't there, first of all.
I don't think anything is I mean, unless you're like actually out. I mean, you can't always judge that, but like getting shoved and like having a physical altercation is not reason to kill somebody.
Yeah.
It's not. I've lived my life without a gun. I don't really want a gun. I mean, I've shot guns. I just don't feel the need to carry one. I'm pretty confident in the sense of like I'm a bit of like a peacekeeper. I mean, I'm good at talking myself out of things. Like, and I've handled most of my life like that. And if it ever came to the point where I ended up getting shot over something, like so be it. It's my time. I don't ever want to take somebody else's life at my hands. I would much rather die than take somebody else's
Yeah,
life.
I'm the same exact way. And it's funny you say that because we were watching, I don't know if you're a big movie buff, but what was it? I think it was the Batman, whatever the Rises, whichever one, whatever.
The Dark Knight
The
Rises.
Dark Knight Rises. Yeah, I couldn't remember the title, but you've seen it. I'm assuming then
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the scene when they're on the boats and
Yep.
like they're deciding. And I
Yeah,
was
the criminals or the yep.
Yep. So for any
Yeah, that's a pretty. That was I like that
yeah,
part.
so I think that move. Just a side note, that movie is absolutely genius. Every last detail, if you really watch and digest that movie, is like above almost anything else. But we were watching it last night, and a couple buddies, like, that scene pops up, and the first thing, look over, what would you do if you were in the boat? And just like you said, like if that key was in your hand, the one part on the inmate boat, they stand up, and the guy's getting ready to turn it, and the one inmate goes, "You don't know what it's like to take a life, so gimme the remote, and I'll do what you should have done 10 minutes ago." And like when you hear that, it's like you have one guy in his hand with the opportunity to just like kill 400 people and save themselves, and then you have like this other guy who has killed in his life, knows what that feeling is and knows what that perspective is, and those are two completely different perspectives. And then you just have to think there's another boat with 400 people with completely different perspectives. And and we were talking about it, and I asked one buddy, would you pull it? He said, "Fuck yeah, I'd turn that trigger in a second and save myself." And what about you? And I said exactly what you said. Like, I would rather have them like kill me, because like
I would rather die a man than live as a coward.
yeah, like the beauty of that scene is each person that touched that remote, almost everyone went through the same thing, because everyone was Mr. Fucking just give me the fucking remote, I'll do it
Everyone,
right.
yeah,
do
you
it
want
right
to
now.
be powerful, and then you realize you're not.
And the beauty of the scene is they'll show the guy getting it, and he realizes like what he's about to do.
yeah. The gravity of it. I mean, it's
And like
it's crazy.
something like that. I think part of the problem in today's universe with technology and everyone being right up in it right away is it gets reduced to a yes or no. So like a shooting, you could easily, like, everything on Twitter, Instagram, or whatever could easily pretty much be summarized if you just had like a fucking big survey. Did he have the right to shoot, yes or no? But the problem is that's not life. Like, that's black or white, but life is like an area of gray, the size of the universe. So like there's so many things to consider in every single scenario, and like who's to say that these people couldn't be rehabilitated even if they were in a situation?
Well, I agree. Like I said, I mean, I like to think. I mean, going back into the whole cop situation and stuff. I mean, you sign up to be a cop. I support the cops 100%. I've had great experiences with cops throughout my life. Some people haven't, and they almost. I mean, they have their right to have that perspective. I mean, if you've had bad experiences, but when you were cooperating, and you have a bad look, I mean, you can't relate to that if you've had a good life. And like I said, I can't, but I'm open-minded to understand it. I've kind of seen it and have ideas about it, but. I think if you sign up to be a cop, I mean I don't know. You know what you're signing up for, and it shouldn't always be shoot to kill, eliminate the threat. Like you're a peacekeeper, not you're not supposed to escalate it. You're supposed to de-escalate the situation. And if it escalates right to I just don't think you're fit for service. I mean, I know. Trust me, and I know. I mean, there's until you're put in that place and stuff like that. But yeah, I would never. I couldn't do it. I wouldn't shoot to kill. I would much rather die than take somebody else's life.
Yeah, it's
really what it comes down to.
And I think thinking about it now, it's almost like having that mindset. Like I would, put the bullet in me before you. It's almost, and this isn't like from a righteous perspective. It's just the way it's almost like I'm going back to what you said about like your accident with snowboarding. If you're willing to like choose but take your life over some other random strangers, that's like a level of maturity and a level of more willing and acceptance to die that other person clearly doesn't have. So maybe for you it's kind of just like, all right, it's my time to go. This person might need more time to conceptualize that and be able to see what they did. And I mean,
hey, maybe that's why we're here, is to maybe get to those conclusions. I mean, you have no idea.
Yeah, like that's, I think, a big meaning, going back to like the meaning of life for me, a big thing is accepting death, like accepting the fact that everyone is gonna die.
Oh yeah, we all inevitably are going towards the same fate.
Yeah, and that's that. Like you know, you said you're pretty good with it, but for me, like it comes in waves. I would say the general consensus is that I'm like, all right, I've gotten to a point where I've made a lot of mistakes. I've learned from them, and now I'm busting my ass to be the best person I can be. So I think if everyone does that in their lives, you shouldn't be afraid to die. If you're doing the best that you can be for what you believe your purpose is, you should. But there's times when I can say that easily, but then there's days I
Oh,
wake
I
up and
well,
it's like I'm scared of like everything. It's like I don't
yeah.
even want to think about it.
I had it. Well, it took me a while to get here, and I mean, it might be like a wave too. My waves last pretty long, but I had a lot of health anxiety after my accident, just because I mean, any sort of internal injury, I tend to think that it's something serious right away now. Or before, I mean, before that, like I felt invincible. I honestly wonder what my mindset would be till this day if I never had that. But I mean, I felt like nothing could take me down. And I mean, now you just realize how fragile life is, and it's definitely an appreciation. And yeah, I don't. I mean, it's scary. I mean, it's the fear of the unknown. What happens after? I mean, a lot of people like to think of an afterlife, but I mean, it might even be, if there isn't anything, it just goes black. I mean, it really isn't. I like to sleep. That's pretty
Yeah,
peaceful.
like
Anything.
is that the
I mean,
worst
I'm
thing?
not gonna be concerned if people are, how would you feel if you're dead? Like you won't.
If that is that the worst thing if the lights just go out and that's it?
I don't remember. I wasn't here, but I mean, before I was born, there was plenty of things going on, and I wasn't here.
what do you make of the afterlife?
I don't know.
What's your take
I,
on it?
I don't know. I've had a death experience and or near death experience, however you want to call it, and I didn't see anything. So
What like if you don't have a big picture, what kind of ideas or thoughts are going through your head that are shaping it at least?
if there is an afterlife, I don't think it's anything like what we're experiencing now. I mean, you're talking beyond the three dimensions. I mean, we're in in time, space. The time and space. I mean, you're gonna go beyond that. I mean, you can't even fathom what another dimension is because your brain is designed and only has the hardware to handle anything in the three dimensions or four dimensions. If you want to, the fourth dimension would be time. But if there is an afterlife, it's beyond that, and it's something that even if you even had like the closest like inclination of what it could be, you could never actually like human language could never. You can't interpret it. You can't explain it. Like nothing. It's something beyond anything that we'd ever be able to grasp in the first place.
Yeah.
And you won't know until you're there.
Yeah.
And I had a theory. Oh, I read a theory about this. I read a bunch about this theory. Is that the brain is actually an antenna receiving a signal, and that's what consciousness is. It's pretty cool theory, and I like it a lot. I mean, obviously, I don't really subscribe to anything because whenever you fully commit to a theory, at that point, you've closed your brain to learning anything
That's
else.
very dangerous.
Yeah, exactly.
Very
I
dangerous.
like to always stay open. You give me information, I want to research and I want to learn, and I mean that's how you learn. You always keep your thoughts open.
That's interesting. I've never heard that one. Can you expand upon that at all? Like I don't mean to put you on the spot, but like at least what you've read into in it, because I'm interested to hear more about that.
It's one of those. It's just more or less just a theory that the brain is receiving your consciousness. I mean, that's a signal from somewhere else. I mean, but again, beyond what we understand in the three-dimensional realm. Because I don't. There is actually a study on it. It's you start getting into, the quantum realm and stuff like that. I read it so long ago. I can't really. I send you a link then when I get a chance.
Yeah.
But
Nah, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I was just curious because like
yeah, no, it's like the tubes in the brain. It's just the way they work. That's like the word I'm thinking of. It's slipping my mind right now. But no, it was a pretty cool theory though. It's that like I said, that you're receiving your consciousness, not so much that your brain is creating it.
and it's like coming from a higher. You're
Yeah.
you're saying like
Well, a high you could give it any word you want.
yeah, like like you said, when I say higher, I don't think of God, but like something that like you said we can't even begin to perceive.
Exactly. I mean, you're getting just a little tiny picture.
Could the brain be a radio for receiving consciousness? Interesting. Wow.
Yeah, you have to read it. There's there was more into like the scientific aspect of it and how the brain actually reacts, and like when you die and stuff, like your when you're alive, your brain, the tubes in your brain are in a quantum state, and they get like actually like can kind of see it when it goes out of that. It's kind of cool.
Hmm. And through that theory, is there like, would there be that you remember? Does that theory subscribe to an afterlife then, or is that theory saying like once that signal's cut, you're done?
No, I think it would more or less subscribe to an afterlife, or maybe not even so much an afterlife, but a bigger picture.
Yeah. For me, it's just hard. It's hard to wrap. Like, this goes back to just being human and like the way we look at things and our perception being so small compared to the bigger picture. So this is like a naive thing to say, but it's hard for me to comprehend. Like like you said, you don't remember anything before you were here, which makes sense. And then like you were brought in through this beautiful moment, this whole process, and now like we're both humans, but there's something that distinctly that differentiates you from me. And I just find it hard to believe that something like that special spark that each person has that makes each person a human. I just like I grapple with the idea of that just not existing. Which, like I said, it could just be my infantile brain. Like,
I mean, it could be just experience as you've developed over the years that kind of shapes your personality. I mean, I could think back to, if you call me out on a spot right now, I mean, it was thoughts that I've had like throughout the workday, or when my mind's kind of just going nuts because I'm not really doing anything. But at times, I can think back to certain events in my life that have shaped my opinion or perceptions on certain things.
mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like somebody will do something for an example, I mean, I don't have this, but like some people, it bothers them like when people chew with their mouth open or something. And like for me, like, and that I could actually remember like what specific event made me not like that. Like, but
Really?
not that. That was a bad example.
No.
That
I see
wasn't-
exactly.
But that's what I'm getting
Like-
at, though. Like certain things, like when people do something, or if something bothers me, I'm like, well, why does that bother me? And I can think back to like the exact moment, sometimes in certain scenarios of like what caused me to not like that.
No,
And then I work on kind of changing it or becoming more open to things.
I see I know exactly what you're saying because I kind of like I work through that too. Sometimes like I'll think back to some random memory and then like the thought process will be like, one, why do I remember that? And then two, like that might be, oh, okay, that could make sense why I don't like that. You know what I mean? Like,
And then but just think about it. I mean, going back to why we're all different. I mean, to think just multiple millions of those little experiences kind of shapes your personality to who you are today.
yeah, I've talked about that on here before. How like I like talking about the brain and how we evolve to where we get. One analogy I use is a forest. Yeah. All right, so everyone starts out as just like the desert. You know what I mean? Everyone has this blank landscape, but every time something happens, something pops up in that forest, like a blade of grass. Every single event in your life is a blade of grass. A major impact, like for you, snowboarding accident, boom, a tree pops up, and like through that, like those are events that are happening, but every single person's forest is shaped differently because things pop up in different places. Things look a little different the way that they happen to people. And at the end of the day, everyone has a forest, but every single fucking forest is different. Yeah. And to me, that's like a way.
I like that.
That's a good analogy I use to like look, because you know what I mean. Everyone has the same thing. You have grass, you have trees, flowers, this, that, and the third, but it's different. Like, and everyone's different. But yeah, I think that's like everyone's just got to look into things like that a little more and think a little deeper about these things.
Yeah. No, I agree.
But we're a little crunch for time. We got to get out of here. Short one, but I'm definitely happy to have you on here, man.
Yeah, no, I'd love to come back again.
Fuck yeah, I'll be glad to have you on again, my dude. Got the Honda Grom ripping that thing around town.
I got a full stunt cage coming in for it soon. That's gonna be.
Do you actually?
Yeah.
You have a cage coming in too?
Yeah.
What with like the
wheelie bar, the cage, axle sliders. I plan on dumping that bike so many times.
God,
I'm
so jealous.
It's gonna be so fun.
How much do those things run new?
Like $3,200. You can get them used for like 25.
That's just tempting.
Yeah.
That's tempting. But no, it was good having you on. I really appreciate it and everything, my man. All right. As for all you fuckers, peace out. See ya.